What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Powerhouse Mentality podcast and the Powerhouse Mentality training in the Powerhouse Mentality community Facebook group. If you're listening to the podcast and you're not in the Powerhouse community Facebook group, go ahead to the show notes down below and join the Facebook community. We go live in here every single Monday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we talk about a different topic. So if you're new here, one week we talk about mindset, and the next week we talk about nutrition and training. And all of these topics, whether it be mindset, nutrition, or training, they're all focused with the goal to help you become the best version of yourself and to help you stop tolerating your own bullshit so you can finally win in life, because that is what the Powerhouse Mentality is all about. We are fuel, we are gear for the mentally tough. So if you're in the community, that is you. You are the mentally tough. So thank you for being here and continue pushing. But a couple weeks ago, we spoke about how to see results without tracking calories or macros. And if you want to go back and watch that training or listen to that podcast episode, go search it. How to see results without tracking your calories. Now, today, we're going to talk about how to set up your calories and your macros for fat loss. Because everybody at some point in their life is going to want to reach a fitness goal, whether it be losing body fat, gaining lean muscle, improving health, improving performance. And this is a great place to start for most people, because a lot of people, what they do is they go and Google how to lose weight, and they find so many outrageous things, and then they get paralysis by analysis. They take action, fail, take action, fail, take action, fail, and then think something's wrong with them because they've just been restricting too much, probably with their calories. Or they decide to start the new diet that is a fad diet that is not sustainable, and then they can't sustain results. So again, you just stay stuck in this cycle where you think that something's wrong with you because you can't accomplish your fitness goals, when in all reality, you've just been attacking it from the wrong angle. And what I find is that so many people overcomplicate fat loss. They overcomplicate the process. Now, the process is simple. However, what we've spoken about in the past is that the process might be simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy, because if it were easy, everybody would be shredded, everybody would be healthy, we wouldn't be in an obesity crisis, everybody wouldn't be developing chronic disease at the rate that they are, and I would have no job. Now, let's talk first about calories, because when we're looking at like a pyramid, if we're thinking like a hierarchy of needs when it comes to fat loss, I want you to like visualize a pyramid. The bottom portion, or the biggest base of that pyramid, is going to be calories. Now, calories, simply put, calories is a unit of measurement. It measures energy. So calories measure the energy that's in our food or drinks if we're drinking something with calories in it. No matter what that food is, whether it be broccoli, whether it be chicken breast, whether it be a donut, a cookie, a Starbucks latte that has calories, it has energy, so it's just measuring the amount of energy that's in that food. So if something is 100 calories, it has 100 units of energy. That's basically it. We use energy, we store energy, we need energy to live. And to carry out every single bodily process in our body, we require energy, and that energy comes from calories. So super simple. And I want you guys to think of it in an analogy, all right? So we think of units of measurement. We think of a mile, right? For us in the United States, we think of miles. Now, the distance of 1 mile is the same no matter what. If you're biking it, if you're running it, if you're swimming it, if you're crawling it, it's the same distance. However, it might be easier if you're running it versus if you're swimming a mile. It's going to take you longer probably to swim a mile than it's going to take you to bike a mile. Obviously, if you can't ride a bike, that's not correct, but you know what I'm saying. So while the challenge might be different, depending on what you're doing in that mile, whether you're running, biking, or swimming, it's still a mile. The distance still remains the same. The measurement still remains the same. So I want you to think of calories in the same light. Calories, 100 calories from one food is the same as 100 calories from another food. However, the nutrient composition of the food can be vastly different, and that's going to impact how your body uses it, right? If I have 100 calories from a donut, it's 100 calories of energy, it's 100 units of energy, But 100 calories from a chicken breast, because of the nutrient composition, is going to be different. It's going to be used differently in my body, and it's going to produce a different result. So that's kind of what I want you to remember when you think of calories. Now, the thing is that people tell you that there are good calories and there are bad calories. And if you use that analogy of a mile is a mile no matter what, and a calorie is a calorie no matter what, but the nutrient composition is just different, that's kind of stupid because it doesn't make any sense. And what I find is that when people start labeling foods and calories as good and bad, it usually causes more harm than good. The way that I like to look at it is some calories are more nutrient dense than other calories, okay? And that's where macronutrients will come into play, because the macronutrients are the nutrient composition of the calorie. But say you're tracking calories. How do you know if it's working? Because I want to set the tone here. I want you guys to understand the importance of tracking not just calories and macros, but also tracking your consistency, because consistency is the thing that matters here. I say it all the time. You have to be consistently good instead of trying to be inconsistently perfect. Anybody can be perfect for 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. But that's not what's going to deliver results. What's going to deliver results is you being consistent. So tracking calories and macros is important because what happens is most people underestimate how much they eat if they're not tracking it. And then they don't see results and they get frustrated. The same thing happens if you're not tracking your consistency. So what I recommend you do, if you're somebody who's just getting into this journey, is print out a calendar, or if you have a calendar on your phone, you can do it this way too if you want to do it digitally. I like pen and paper, so you can print out a calendar, and on the days where you hit your calories and macros that I'm going to help you determine in this video or in this podcast, you put a big old check on that day. And the days that you don't hit your calories and macros that we're going to discuss, you put an X. And then over the month, you see how consistent you truly are. You're not going to be perfect. You're not going to hit every single day. Maybe you will, but most people won't. But what you can measure is your consistency over time. So if you look at it at a month-to-month basis, then you can look at month 1, where maybe you had 20 green checks. And then month 2, you had 25. Month 3, you had 28. So then you can measure over 90 days if it's truly working, because what happens is that most people don't give the process enough time for them to truly be consistent. And most people overestimate how consistent they truly are. And if they're not tracking their consistency, it's impossible to know. And what happens is that they think they're being super consistent, then they start tracking their consistency, realizing that they're only 50% there. So track your consistency. Use the red X on the days that you don't hit, the green check on the days that you do hit, and use it on a calendar and see how consistent you truly are. That's how you can determine if this actually works, and give it 90 days. Give it time. It takes time to see change. Now, let's talk about your calories first. Let's determine your calories first because that's the base of the pyramid, right? So, number 1, you have to determine what your goal weight would be. And now your goal weight, don't overthink this. Your goal weight could just simply be the weight that you felt most comfortable in, most confident at, that it was not too difficult for you to maintain that weight. It doesn't need to be something completely unrealistic. And that's kind of what I find people do sometimes when they set a goal weight, is that they've never been, say, 130 pounds in their entire life, but they say that they're going to be 130 pounds because they want to be. That's kind of not how it works. Our body likes to be comfortable. So if maybe you've been at 150 pounds in your life and you knew that was where you felt most comfortable, you felt your healthiest, you were most confident there, then pick that. Now, your goal weight might change along the way. What I found is that some people say they set a goal weight for 130 and they get to 140 and they feel fucking phenomenal, so they stay there. That goal weight might change, but for the context of determine your calories, pick a realistic goal weight, and then you're going to multiply that by 12. And now the example that I want to use, and I'm going to use throughout this entire training, is somebody with a goal weight of 150 pounds. Why? Because I already did the math for that person, and it's really easy math. So 150 times 12 is 1,800 calories. Boom. So you would hit 1,800 calories on a daily, consistent basis, and you should be in a place where you would lose body fat. Now, of course, you might have to manipulate these numbers over time, and you probably will have to manipulate these numbers over time, which is why I truly believe it is super important for you to have a coach. And if you don't have a coach, I am a coach. Just shoot me a message. I would love to help you. You're in this group for a reason. You're serious about your health. I'm taking on clients. But 1,800 calories. Now, the way that I like to do this for most people is I like to give them a range, because what I find is that if somebody hits 1,850, they think they fucking failed, when in all reality, 50 calories really isn't going to make that big of a deal. So it makes it mentally easier and makes it easier to be consistent when you set a range. So the way I like to do it is, if your calories we determined were 1,800 calories based on that equation, then I would have 1,700 to 1,900 calories being the range that you would hit on a consistent basis. Again, I encourage a range, especially if you're just starting out, because it makes it easier to be consistent and is still a great way to win, to build success, which builds confidence, because confidence is simply the memory of winning. So we determined your calories, take your goal body weight, multiply it by 12, and then 100 above, 100 below is going to be your range. Okay? Now, let's get into the macro side of things. But first, before we get into the macros, I want to reiterate the difference between tracking calories and tracking macros, because there is a big difference. Remember the example that I used at the beginning when we were talking about 150 calories from a donut, but I'm going to change it to cookies because I prefer cookies. People are obsessed with donuts. I'm not a donut person. I am a cookie person. So we're going to take the example of 150 calories from cookies versus 150 calories from chicken breast, right? The calories are the same. It's 150 units of measurement, right? 150 units of energy. However, the macros are different, right? The chicken's going to have, 25 to 35 grams of protein, and the cookies are probably going to have like 1 or 2 grams of protein, if even. So those are vastly different because our body uses protein to rebuild and maintain lean muscle tissue. So the chicken breast is going to help you a lot with that versus the cookie that's not going to help you at all with that. But that's not saying you can't have the cookie, right? Now, calories are a unit of energy, and macros is the nutrient composition of your food. So that's the difference. If you're tracking calories, that's the most important thing, okay? Because remember, it's at the base of our pyramid, our hierarchy of needs. Because the only way to lose body fat is to be in a calorie deficit, regardless of the nutrient composition of the food that you're eating. If you're hitting your macros perfectly, but you're not in calorie deficit, doesn't fucking matter. You're not going to lose body fat. However, if you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to lose body fat. But the nutrient composition of your food makes it easier for you to see results. Let me explain. Protein is the most important macronutrient for fat loss because it is the only macro that helps you build and maintain muscle. And muscle is the driver of your metabolism. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn at rest. That means your metabolism is faster. That means it's easier for you to sustain results and you can eat more doing it. So muscle is exactly what you want. So protein helps you build muscle. Carbs and fats aren't going to help you do that in the same way. So protein is also going to keep you more full and make a calorie deficit easier, because if you're more full and satiated while in a calorie deficit, it's going to make it easier to not eat like an asshole and remain in that calorie deficit. So if you're looking at our pyramid example again, at the bottom, the base of the pyramid, you have those calories. And then you have your macros, your carbs, your proteins, and your fats. And then at the tippy top of that pyramid, the smallest little bit, is micronutrients, vitamins, minerals, fiber, things like that. But let's break down the macros. All right, so you have your proteins and your carbs, which both equal 4 calories per gram. But the units of energy are the same. However, the nutrient composition is different between a protein and a carb because it gives our body different benefits. Protein, like I said earlier, it helps to build and maintain anything in your body. Anything that requires growth and repair requires protein. That's why protein is the building blocks of your body, the building blocks of life. You would literally die without protein. Carbs won't be used like that. Carbs are used for energy and sometimes hormone regulation, specifically serotonin production, which is your feel-good hormone, which is why you feel good after eating carbs. Fats are going to have 9 calories per gram. So they literally have more than double the amount of calories per gram as carbs and proteins. That's why when you look at the back of a jar of peanut butter and you see that it has 190 to 200 calories for one little serving, it's so small. It's because it's more calorically dense. And fats are great for joint health, joint lubrication, which helps with recovery, which helps you not get injured, but it's also really good for overall hormone regulation. The amount of people who have hormone issues because they have eaten such low fat for too long is unbelievable. So if you feel like shit, maybe look at your fat macros. Might help. Now, let's determine your macros. And we can determine that using the same example, okay? So that 150-pound goal weight times 12 is going to equal 1,800 calories. And this is where we really need to listen, right? This is where the pen's going to come out because you need to follow this. Let's figure out our protein first. This one's the easiest one. You're going to take that goal weight and you're going to multiply it by 1. And that's the amount of protein you should eat on a daily basis. So for that 150-pound goal weight example, you would do 150 times 1, which is going to equal 150 grams of protein. Now, if you multiply that 150 grams by 4, because protein has 4 calories per gram, you're going to come up with the number 600, which is the amount of calories of protein you're going to eat. This is important for later, okay? So write that down. Now you're going to determine your fat. And this can be in a range from anywhere from 20% to 35% of your total calories. So I just threw it in the middle at 25%. So what you're going to do is take 0.25 and multiply it by the total number of calories, which in this case is 0.25 times 1,800. That is going to give you 450 calories, not grams of fat. Jesus, don't eat that much fat. 450 divided by 9, because remember there are 9 calories in a gram of fat, is going to equal 50 grams of fat. Okay, so now let's summarize so far where we're at. We're at 150 grams of protein, 50 grams of fat. Okay, now remember when I told you to save that number of calories for protein? This is where we're going to use it to determine our carbs, because carbs is the last one, and carbs is the one where people get the most confused. So listen up. 600 was the amount of calories from protein. 450 was the amount of calories from fat. So we're going to do 600 plus 450, which is going to give us 1,050. Now we're going to subtract that from the total calories, 1,800, which gives us 750 calories remaining, which is the amount of carbs. But how do we put it into grams? If you were listening, you would know. You were going to divide that 750 by 4 because there are 4 calories per gram of carb, and you're going to come up with the number 187.5, but we're not eating 0.5 grams of carbs, so we're going to round it up to 188. So, to summarize it all, and to give the example, the final little bow on top, this person with the goal weight of 150 pounds will eat 1,800 calories with 150 grams of protein, 188 grams of carbs, and 50 grams of fat. Now, the most important 2 numbers that I want you to focus on are calories and protein. So if you hit your calories and you hit your protein, you're going to see phenomenal results. You can manipulate the carbs and fats to kind of fluctuate if you like, or if you're somebody who prefers more carbs, you feel better on more carbs, you can increase the carbs, decrease the fat to make up for it, or vice versa. So that's the cool part, is like if you're doing this and you're just focusing on calories and protein, then maybe some days your carbs are a little bit higher, but then you compensate by making your fats a little bit lower, which is why, again, it's so important to focus on calories and protein. So to summarize this all up, this episode gave you, and this training gave you exactly what you need to set your calories and macros up for fat loss. Now, remember what I said in the beginning. You have to trust the process and track your consistency for the next 90 days. If you don't do that, you probably will get frustrated because you think it's not working, when in all reality, you just didn't give it enough time. So if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments down below in this video. Shoot me a DM on Instagram if you're listening to the podcast. I'd be more than happy to help. And go out and do one thing that's going to take you one step closer to where you want to be. See you guys.